what's your reaction to the Trump victory?
Thank you.
Anything that could have been done differently?
That first debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
He will never step foot in the White House again. Winning an election is a decision.
Well, first of all, it takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently, frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you
I'm
continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now, as
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time.
What has this experience taught you about leadership?
It's taught me a lot about leadership in terms of the significance, how you present yourself, what people expect from you. And that's very important. And it's important for me to demonstrate to Angelenos doing things faster than, was expected, passing executive orders so that we can expedite things.
And what is as fast as possible? What's a realistic time frame for people to actually start rebuilding and actually get home?
I'm hoping that the rebuilding and the planning process can actually start now. So what I understand is 3 years would probably be the fastest, but probably it would be more like 5.
When people hear 3 to 5 years, Governor Newsom was talking about the idea of a year.
I don't know about that, but I think that what we can do in a year, or maybe a little bit longer, are the temporary structures that we would put in the commercial area.
Somebody who was going to be voting for Kamala Harris came up to me and said, "Oh my God, Trump's going to win." I go, "Why is that?" He goes, "I went to the grocery store. Butter's over $3. I kind of laughed and I said,
"The $7."
What's that? Butter is $7?
Yeah.
What?
Some
Is
places.
it framed in gold?
Depends on where you go. But
My point is this, Willie. The rent is too damn high, and this guy was saying the cost of butter is way damn too high.
Officially, I know her. Policy-wise, she has strength. She knows the issues. She knows the strategy. She's eloquent in her presentation.
Well, I know she has your vote, but it's neck and neck. It is. I've never seen an election this tight at this point. Usually somebody has an edge at this point. That could change, but it's neck and neck. In the battlegrounds, it's neck and neck. So I do wonder, it seems like she's running kind of cautiously, and I wonder, does she need to take more risks?
Well, I would say, since you said, she has my vote, I wasn't speaking about myself, because that's one vote.
Jill Biden.
Jill Biden.
She was like president. She was president. I was with Joe and Jill the night of the debate. I was at their VIP debate watch party. I was with Joe. Jill takes Joe by the hand on stage, and she's like, "Joe, you knew all the facts. You answered all the questions." And that hand gesture that she does. And I'm thinking, you're treating him like a first grader. You shouldn't applaud him for doing the basics. And you could just tell that she was fighting for dear life to hold on to the vestige of power. So the whole thing was a Jill Biden show. She was not as authentic as Joe.
Biden seemed relieved to be passing the torch to Don the dictator. Since Kamala lost, we've never seen Joe happier. How do you arrest a guy, call him Hitler, and almost get him killed, and then when he wins, you invite him over for coffee? I don't know what goes on in Joe's little head. He doesn't either.
After the debate, Hunter basically commandeered the White House. He sat in on all the White House top-level meetings. You had a former cocaine addict sitting in on the most sensitive meetings of the most consequential and important government in world history. Does that sit right with you?
No.
Without security clearance, mind you. No security clearance. That's who was basically running the show. So Hunter basically battened down the hatches after the debate to make sure that his father would only receive intel that he pre-approved. And so Anita Dunn got exiled around this time, along with her husband. Her husband was playing Trump in the debate prep. Von Klain was disgraced after the debate blew up. And then Jeff Zients, the person who's worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, the chief of staff. I should mention that the weekend that Biden made the decision to drop out, he only told 2 people in that circle, and that's Steve Ricchetti and Mike. He didn't tell Anita.
Did we cover all the names?
Jill Biden.
Jill Biden.
She was like president. She was president. I was with Joe and Jill the night of the debate. I was at their VIP debate watch party. I was with Joe. Jill takes Joe by the hand on stage, and she's like, "Joe, you knew all the facts. You answered all the questions." And that hand gesture that she does. And I'm thinking, you're treating him like a first grader. You shouldn't applaud him for doing the basics. And you could just tell that she was fighting for dear life to hold on to the vestige of power. power. So the whole thing was a Jill Biden show. She was not as authentic as Joe. I think as Joe got older, maybe you think I'm naive in saying this, but I'm not even sure if he remembers all of the corruption that he engaged in.
It doesn't surprise me.
I don't think he had a full understanding of what was going on.
Don Lemon announced he's quitting Twitter by posting this video on Twitter.
Hi, everyone. I have loved connecting with all of you on Twitter and then on X for all of these years. But it's time for me to leave the platform. I once believed that it was a place for honest debate and discussion, transparency and free speech. But I now feel it does not serve that purpose.
And then he went on to tweet 3 more times. I guess it wasn't goodbye, just see you later. Oh, and then there's Sunny Hostin, who's feeling guilty, admitting she accidentally blew up Kamala's campaign with a softball.
I followed up because I was surprised at the answer. Look, I think it wasn't so much about the question, but it was really more about the answer.
Not a thing comes to mind.
Not a thing comes to mind. And that's why I followed up with, is there anything that you would do differently? And the reason I followed up is because, that wasn't a gotcha question. That was a layup. Really?
It was an important question, and I think one she should have expected.
That's what I thought. I actually thought it was a chance for her to explain to all the people who are saying, I want a change agent.
Makes sense why ABC is now realizing they need to change things up on The View. The New York Post today wrote, ABC brass scrambled to bring in pro-Trump voices to The View and other shows. Panic mode. Also in panic mode, the DNC. The finger pointing through the roof. While the party was falling apart, Jamie Harrison, the chair of the DNC, is getting his own documentary. The one guy who should have been focused on better serving Democrats was running around with a camera crew trying to recreate the war room. Every corner of the left, the campaigns, the media, the DNC, in disarray. I feel bad. The only thing they can agree on is how much they hate Trump. And that's a bad idea. Standing against Trump is not the same thing as standing up for something. And Democrat insiders are saying, they got to get it together. Tommy, when you see grown men cry, how does that make you feel?
Well, I don't think it's any wonder that the Democrat Party is hemorrhaging male voters. I mean, you think about it, you've got Trump going on podcasts with men who host UFC fights, and then on the left, you have Democrats that cry proudly on camera. So there's really no mystery there. There's also really no mystery how Democrats got into this position. I mean, let's think about it. In 2020, the best that they could do was Joe Biden, who was cognitively failing then and then got much, much worse. And then they replaced Joe Biden at the 11th hour with a woman who got no support in 2019, didn't even make it to 2020, and is on camera saying she supports taxpayer-funded trans surgeries for illegal immigrants who are detained in prison. I mean, if you're wondering how you got here, folks, I think there's a pretty clear road. It is a yellow brick road, and then you picked a running mate who does rocket kicks and wants to put tampons in the boys' bathroom. I mean, it's pretty obvious how you got here, guys. You can dig your way out. You can rebuild, but it's going to take less crying and more actual work.
And the media was trying to help. Sonny was saying, I was trying to give her a layup. What would you do differently? Just name one thing. And she still couldn't do it.
They asked her simple questions, and she's always been burdened by what has been. She always oscillated between 3 talking points, and then when those 3 talking points didn't work, she just oscillated right back to them. I mean, she really is like a ceiling fan that only has a couple of modes. But speaking of oscillating, the Democrats right now, they're in the stages of grief, and they just go back and forth between grief and anger, grief and anger. But to be fair, Jesse, I think they've been angry for the last 8 years. Trump broke their brain in 2016, and then they got Joe Biden. But Jesse, they were still angry. I don't remember them ever being happy 2020 through 2024. They're always upset. They're always angry. They're always shaving their heads and screaming at the camera. It's time now to just embrace Donald Trump and embrace the greatness that's coming your way. You will be able to afford eggs and gas now. Just be happy and rejoice with the rest of us.
They were happy when they had their masks on. You could see them smiling. They loved the mask. And then once the masks came off, they hated it. They didn't want to go back to normal. And this is what this is. This is just back to normal. It's not going back. It's just going back to normal. And that's what we want. The golden age. And you're saying that they should just embrace Trump, embrace the golden age. They're having a hard time following Elon Musk, who wants to cut the budget. How controversial is that?
What an amazing man. He always said his number one goal was to stop Donald Trump. When he decided not to run, he showed what a great American he was. I've known him for 45 years. It didn't surprise me.
What's your message to former President Trump tonight?
You can't always get what you want.
Do you think she needs to be presenting more meat on the bones of, I get that she's from a middle class family. It's great. And I get that she feels people's pains. Great. But what about, like, here are the 5 things I'm going to do directly for you? Does she need to be doing more of that?
Well, people like to have a connection to whoever is running for office, that they share their experience, that they understand their lives. And I think that's what she is establishing. But I never give advice to presidential candidates. The wisdom that they have, the political astuteness that they have to become the presidential candidate says they know something about the market out there. I do think that the one issue in terms of the cost of living, people want to hear something very specific. I have no complaint about how she is going forward.